bag, you just close. Next thing you look, you see the church. Some churches you can do it 75. It's cool. But some don't do it. And that's the issue. The truckers get to the point where they get turn to 75 and they can well exactly. They keep everything maintained. Next thing you know, you bang it. The trailer will walk in. One trailer will be done. That trailer goes you go wait, going too much. It's not crazy, especially when you're and then I'm running on the I look at I'm standing trying to get them. It's for some reason if you're in there, you're so big, you really need parents. I don't know how long you can guess for, I don't even know. I don't even think until I'm guessing how to pull up and flowing. Got everything going on.
Bismillah. طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So we start last week on page 27 of القواعد الفقهية مع الشيخ عبد الرحمن السيدي رحمه الله. We're on القاعدة الخامسة, the fifth principle. And as he says here, this principle has four underlying principles connected to it. But this section has four different rules under one. The first one is repelling harm takes precedence over obtaining benefit. Repelling harm takes precedence over obtaining benefit. What does that mean? Repelling harm. What is another word for repelling? Huh? Stopping or preventing or to prevent harm. To prevent harm is ola, takes precedence, is better than obtaining a benefit. That's the first rule. The second one, intizam maslahatani qaddim arjahuma. If two benefits clash, then the predominant one takes precedence. Like the predominant benefit takes precedence. Like how you know which one is predominant, we're gonna get to it. Like it says, and the preferred one is examined for what makes it better than others. And if two harms clash, the lesser of the two is carried out. Like those are the four. The first one, which is on page 28, repelling harm takes precedence over obtaining benefit. Later, he breaks it down in this section. As you're going to see, it's a couple different categories. Later, number one, what is considered harmful? Islamically, what's considered harmful? How we know something is harmful to us? It's haram. Things that are haram are harmful, right? Like, he says al-mafasid, hiya al-muharramat. What else is harmful?
Things that will put us in hardship or hurt us.
Huh?
Things that will put us in hardship or hurt us.
Things that will put us in hardship or hurt us. I'm just saying, marriage could do that. Marriage could put somebody, you understand?
It's falling haram.
Marriage not haram though.
But it can't, I mean, it can't go under five rules. So it can't.
Come on, shit, don't do that.
Do something that,
We already said everything, whatever's haram is already harmful, right? Like, what other category is harmful to us? The mekruh hat, the things that are disliked. Whatever's haram is a prohibition on it, right? And whatever is mekruh is also a prohibition on it, but the prohibitions are two different levels. So the fact that it's a prohibition on both of them, they both fall under what's considered to be al-mafasid. Things that are, as it says here, I know they're harm, are prohibitions and disliked things. Those are the two things that are harmful. So if we look at that, number one, we're saying that preventing or staying away from the haram, right, takes precedence over gaining some type of benefit. So it might be benefit in it, but if you got the choice between benefiting and staying away from the haram, right, meaning if you took the benefit, that means you had to do the haram. You with me? In order to get the benefit, you had to do the haram. So I got to do one or two. Either A, I'm going to take the benefit and do the haram, or B, I'm going to stay away from the haram and miss out on the benefit. That's the picture, all right? Either A, I'm going to take the benefit, whatever it is, and I'm going to have to do something that is haram to get that benefit, or B, I'm going to stay away from the haram and miss out on the benefit. Islamically, which one takes precedence? Staying away from the haram. That takes precedence. That's the one we put forth rather than, and do we just miss out on the benefit in that case? So yeah, and that's why it says on page 28, he says, if the matter revolves between obtaining a benefit and repelling a harm, then repelling a harm takes precedence. So number one, the mafasid, the harms are those things that are haram and the things that are disliked. And just like the masalih, the beneficial things are what? What's beneficial? How do we know something's beneficial? Huh? Halal. More specific. Anything that's obligatory, you know is beneficial. There's no way Allah Jalla or the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is going to command us to do something, because if it's wajib, it's a command. You're not going to command us to do something that's not of benefit. Right? Later. So the obligations, the wajibat, are benefit. Right? And what else is beneficial? The mustahabat, the recommendations. Anything recommended, you know is benefit in it. If we don't know the benefit in that thing, that's our problem. That's our lack of understanding. Right? But the fact that either if it's obligatory, it's a command from Allah, right? And if it's recommended, it's still a command from Allah, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, even though the level of the command is of different types. The fact that we commanded to do it is benefit in doing. Either way. You with me? Like, he says, so the prescribed course of action is repelling the harm, even if it means the benefit is missed. And it's important. Something might be a benefit, no doubt. Everybody knows it's a benefit. But you have to do something that is haram to get that benefit. Right? In that case, right, you don't do it. You don't go gain the benefit, as we say, and sacrifice doing the haram. It might sound crazy. I heard people say, I'll deal with that later. I will do that. Right? I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with committing that sin and the punishment of Allah. I'll deal with that later. That's a dangerous statement. Allah protect us all. But it's people walking around talk like that. People just say anything. I'll deal with that later. I gotta get this right here. This is it. All right, it's once in a lifetime.
Say a person is married to wife, children. If a person These are all, taking care of the single, that more than that.
If a person leaves all,
Provide, but to seek out, because it says a benefit. It's haram not to take care of your family.
no doubt. It's haram not to take care of your family, brothers. Men are the maintainers and protectors of women. So to not take care of your family with the ability to do so is haram. I hope everybody knows that. Let me see something. Because I think that's coming, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, that's coming. Yeah, that's coming, Sean. Like it. So what's put forth first is what? Staying away from the haram, even if we miss out on the benefit. Even if we miss out on the benefit. Like he says after that, this is because the benefit is neither completed nor perfected except by abandoning the harm as such. You can't get the benefit. The real benefit is in leaving off the haram. The real benefit is in leaving off the disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though what's in front of us may be a benefit, right? What's in front of you might be benefit. It might be a benefit. If you did that move, it's benefiting because it's going to be maybe money connected, right? It's a benefit. But you sacrifice and you go against the larger benefit is staying away from disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why it says, abstain from vices, take precedence over being distinguished by virtues. And this is important. It says, what is a vice? V-I-C-E-S. A vice. A sin or a bad habit. Like sins or bad habit or bad practices, right? Like staying away from vices, take precedence over being distinguished by virtues. Staying away from bad habits. So let's just use an example, right? There's a lot of Muslims in this city. Staying away from cursing. Cursing is a bad habit, even with non-Muslims, right? Everybody knows people curse, right? That's like a hole in your character. It's a character flaw. And if you curse too much, you're like, all you do is curse. I can't talk to them, right? Talk about that, I'm not tripping. Tell me if I'm tripping. I'm tripping. Huh? Now it's normal? Because things become normal, don't make them right. Right? Normalize things don't make it right, even though if it becomes a customary practice with the people. Because that's more complicated, that the custom of people is considered, right? You go to different countries, that's a custom. Every custom is not haram. And some customary practices are fine. Doesn't go against the Sharia. But when it comes to the custom of people, what becomes normal amongst people, doesn't mean that it's acceptable Islamic. Right? Because you have an urf that is the custom that is considered, and then you have the custom of people that is urf fasid. That's not considered. That goes against the Sharia. Like, so let's just say cursing, right? Cussing. I don't know how people say it. Cussing, right? Cursing. Foul language, right? This is considered a vice, a bad habit, a bad character trait. So a person may say, yeah, I curse, but method, for example, I cover properly as a Muslim woman. Is it virtue in covering properly? There's a benefit in covering properly. You're not saying that. You're not saying that you should not cover. You're saying that what? The vice itself. You got one or two things. And covering is not just covering is obligatory. So it's not like it's an optional thing, right? Being distinguished, being distinguished by the fact that you cover properly, right? Because that's a distinguishment. Or a brother has henna, or the sajda mark, or the lihya, or the pants, any sign of the sunnah, any sign of Islam is a distinguishment of something virtuous. Something when people look at it, they say, mashallah, that's nice, mashallah. It's honorable, it's respectable, right? A Muslim woman covering properly is respectable. There's virtue in that. It says, abstaining from vices. You staying away from the bad, negative character traits takes precedence over being distinguished by the virtue. What happens when, for example, a sister is covered in all black and she starts talking, she cursing and carrying on? What do people say? Does the distinguishing characteristic of you being covered mean anything? It means nothing at that point, because you didn't stay away from the bad habit, the vice. The vice itself, V-I-C-E, not device. The vice itself overshadowed the virtuous thing that you were doing. Right? The fact that a brother can be a drug dealer in our city and still get love and act like nothing happened. Right? That's a vice. That's haram. Right? But he got a sajda mark. Right? Which means what if he has a sajda mark? He prays. He's supposed to pray. He's supposed to be praying like this. He's supposed to be praying. We're Muslim. You're supposed to be praying. What you're not supposed to be doing is selling drugs. Stop. Play it. What happens when it becomes known that the biggest drug dealer in the neighborhood is a Muslim? What do people say about his Islam?
Really off.
Huh?
Really off.
They might not even say he's off it.
Phrase loud if he is, but I'm saying.
What is said about the person in the community that they live in? Once it's known that this is the biggest drug dealer, right, in the neighborhood. No, it's not.
What's say with anonymous?
The anonymous, let's use anonymous.
They're gonna be out here fake Muslims.
He's a fake Muslim. He ain't a real Muslim. Even though he carries the sign of virtue. Islam is a sign of virtue. He carries all the signs of being the best of creation. Lihya, though above the ankles, all of that, he carries all of that. But the vice connected to him overshadows that. So keeping the vice away is better. Keeping the vice away is better. It's a heavy responsibility that a lot of times, at least in Philly, we don't even. You can basically do anything. As long as you say you pray to you go to a certain masjid, or you look a certain way, or you do a certain, or you've been around for a certain amount of years, people say it's like left, that's no problem. It's a mushkil, that's a musibah. We better hope, we pray to the law and punish us. We are not in a regular situation. The city is not a regular situation. Okay, if you never traveled nowhere, you probably don't know that. But if you travel around America, or outside of America, then you know that Philadelphia is not your normal city when it comes to Islam. Problem is, most people don't travel nowhere, so they're going to see nothing else. So they think that we don't know what we have in front of us, the opportunity of what we really have sitting in front of us, right? But like I said the other day, it's possible we might be held accountable for things that people in other cities are held accountable for, right? Removing that vice, because that vice overshadows the virtue of a person. Like. Then he gives some examples. He says these things are not correct based on the prohibition that they did in order to get them. Prayer in an unlawfully acquired land is not correct. Prayer in an unlawfully acquired land is not correct. What is an unlawfully acquired land? A house that's stolen. Right? You steal a house, you steal some land, you take a Brody, you switch the deed, you go out, whatever you do, right? You go downtown, you got to hook up downtown, because that's, deeds and all that, you doing all that, and then you pray in that place. Right? The prayer in the stolen house is not correct. How does this relate to the rule? How does it relate to the rule? Is it a benefit in prayer? It's a benefit in prayer. What's the problem? The prayer in the house that was stolen. Assuming you know it's stolen. How could you pray when you went to visit somebody, you ain't know they were still in the house, and you prayed, y'all had to pray for it, that's something different. Right? But the deed switches, and you Brody and people, you doing all that stuff, and you go pray in there, right, knowing that you stole the house, It's not correct. That means that what, staying away from the haram or still in that house, right, takes precedence, or not even praying in that house. Even if you know it was stolen, to not pray in there takes precedence. You better off praying outside. Come on.
So when you say not correct, not acceptable.
That's a sin. Not valid. Not valid. Yeah.
You know, the masjid, gotta have that.
Even if a masjid,
Masjid is stolen.
a masjid is a building. Anything that you take that's not yours.
So if you, if a Muslim knows that the masjid is stolen, he should pray there.
If you know it was stolen, if it's confirmed that it could be a masjid, it could be a corner store, it could be a dollar center. If that thing is stolen, and you know it's stolen, right, it applies. If it's stolen, it applies. Right? It could be a corner store, it could be a truck. Somebody might have like a 18-wheeler, like, you know, the joint that on the back, the trailer actually. People pray in the trailer. You know the trailer is stolen, why are you gonna pray in there?
You know, water, like, water that was stolen.
Right, water. What we'll do. Yeah, he mentioned that also. That's one of the examples he mentioned. Water. If the water is stolen, then you shouldn't be making wudu with the water.
So it's just lots of about it.
If the salah still valid,
Yeah,
or
it's like I said, it's like, if you pray that, it's fine, it's still valid.
that's a salah. The maqsood. As the ulama said, the salah, the maqsood is called maqsood. Right? Which is, well, in this book is on page 28. On page 28, it says, accordingly, prayer in unlawfully acquired land is not correct. Right? In Arabic, it says, وَلِهَذَا لَا تَصِحُّ الصَّلَاةُ فِي الْأَرْضِ الْمَنْصُوبَةِ. Land that is stolen, as we said, stolen. Bro, you took it. It's not yours, right? لَا تَصِحُّ الصَّلَاةُ. The salah is not valid in that case. كذلك, the salah is not valid also في الثوب المقصود, and the stolen thobe. Right? If you stole a thobe and prayed in a thobe, it's the same. It's not, the salah in that thobe is not valid. Right? Even though salah itself is a benefit, but what's the harm you up against? A stolen thobe, a stolen house, or stolen wherever it is you're praying in. طيب. And he says also, performing wudu, it says ablution, performing ablution with stolen water. Even though wudu and prayer are acts of worship, so it's benefit. Wudu and the salah are acts of worship. But due to them consisting of a prohibited act, which therefore renders them incorrect. Stolen water, so the wudu is not valid. Clear? The second one, rule. And I think your question comes up in this one. If two clear benefits clash, تزاحم. And تزاحم is my term. It sounds better in Arabic, honestly. But if two clear benefits clash, and it is not possible to do them both, and in the event of doing one, the other will be missed. The predominant of the two takes precedence. Clear? There's two benefits in front of you, right? You can't do both of them. You're not able to carry out both things. Right? But both of them carry benefit. You want to do both, but both of them carry benefit. Which one do you do? The one that has what? The most benefit. The one that has the most benefit in it, that's the one you do. Clear? That's what it means. Like, now, he breaks this down into categories. If one of the benefits, this is the category, this is the first category. Category number one. It's two benefits in front of us. Number one, we already spoke about what are benefits Islamically. How we know something's a benefit. It's either what? Either it's obligatory or recommended. Like, so the first category, the first group, you got two benefits in front of you. One benefit is obligatory and one benefit is recommended. Which one is more beneficial? The obligation. So back to your question. Taking care of your family is obligatory. It's obligatory to take care of your family. What's the hukum on leaving your land to seek knowledge, going overseas to study? What's the hukum? It's recommended. So even though going to study is recommended, it says, mashallah, right? And you got another obligation in front of you, and this is the kicker. You're not able to do both. Because if you're able to do both, you're not, then it's alhamdulillah. But you're not able to do both, then which one takes precedence? The obligation takes precedence over the recommendation, right? And there are a lot of things like that a lot of times we put sunnah acts above obligatory acts. Right? We put sunnah acts above obligatory acts. Like people, for example, not praying during Ramadan, the 5 daily prayers. But don't miss a night of Tarawih. Right? Don't miss a night of Tarawih, which is voluntary. Recommended. Tarawih is recommended. Right? It's benefit in it. But it's more benefit in playing the obligatory prayers. So a person leaves off doing the obligatory prayer to do the recommended prayer, which is backwards. That the one with the greater benefit is given precedence. He says, due to this, absolute optional acts performed by someone who is in danger of losing more pressing duties is incorrect. Again, absolute optional acts performed by someone who is in danger of losing more pressing duties is incorrect. Okay.
Would that be like fast, like you pray, you're doing a recommended fast, and it's causing you trouble with the job to take care of your family?
Again, I'm sorry.
I said, would that be like doing like a recommended fast, and it's causing you like, it might cause you to lose your job because you know, cause you trouble at work.
Jake, good. You go to work in order to to fulfill an obligation to take care of your family, right? And as we said last week, right, taking care of family is obligatory, so working is obligatory. So you go to work to take care of your family. As you go to work, you're doing a recommended fast. The recommended fast on the days that you work is affecting your work performance. Well, you're about to lose your job. You're about to lose your job because you're doing what? Something that's recommended. What should be put first? What's more important? The recommended fast or remaining working to take care of the family, which is the obligation? The obligation.
You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying you excuse it, but
If it's
if
a
like,
regulatory fast,
I work in a job, I gotta work in a fast. Some people,
would a person break their fast?
what I'm saying, yeah, obligatory fast, they have a job, where the job, in a sense, it's causing them to break their fast. So what I'm saying, how do you love it? How would a person love it?
So they're not forced to break their fast, they choose to break their fast.
Yeah, they feel like it's too.
Meaning, because they're not really the same issue. If I'm understanding correctly. This issue, the first one, is that my work performance I'm getting heat because of my work performance. Is that what you meant? All right. The first one, I'm getting heat because of my work performance. You with me? So now, I'm doing a recommended fast, and I'm not really performing like I'm supposed to perform at work. So now, I'm catching heat from, right, supervisor, manager, what, because I'm not really doing my job. Why am I not doing my job? Because I'm doing something that's recommended. You talking about, nobody really said anything to you. The person just feels like this job is too demanding and I can't fast while I do it. That's a different situation. You understand?
But even in that case, wouldn't that be a job which is obligatory, taking care of the family? The fast is a pillar. So what the pillar takes precedence over the obligatory? That's like if you get a job, if you get a job and you tell you like, yeah, they like, oh, we run all, but for this time, you like, well, I gotta take a break to pray. They're like, no, we can't do that. We can't compensate. You can't work that job because like taking care of the family is obligatory. So the prayer is
No diddy doubt. No doubt. I don't want people quitting their jobs and then going back and talking about people saying you gotta quit your job. What I'm saying is, if that's the case, and they say you can't pray, before you quit your job, right? You gotta exhaust all options of being able to pray first, right? And if that's the case, and it still comes down where a person is still not able to pray, right? That's like last resort. A lot of times we jump the gun. We don't even really put forth the full effort to try to figure things out. Somebody say something to us, I'm out there, I ain't saying that, right? When in reality, for real, the Lord has like a 4-hour window right now, right? And the Lord got a 4-hour window, realistically. You want to pray when the Lord come in, because from the best deeds is praying when the salat, right? In the first part of the salat, right? Now you got to look at it. If that's the case, you praying in the first part of the salat is better, right? But you can pray at the end time also. But you got a choice. So my advice would be, first you got to exhaust all options before you go that far. Allah knows best. Later. So he says the two benefits, and you're not able to do both. You got to make sure that it's clear. Let me see how he worded it. Yeah. And it says, and it is not possible to do both. If it is possible to do both, that's a different story. But you got two benefits in front of you, you can't do both of them. Right? He says, for example, voluntary prayers performed by one who is in danger of losing more pressing duties is incorrect. It's not correct that right now it's 8:05, right? It's not correct that a person goes and they didn't pray Asr yet. They still have time to pray Asr? They still got time to pray Asr. They didn't pray Asr yet, right? And they come and they pray Sunnahs when they enter the masjid, for example. Which is more important? Asr is more important. The obligation is more important than the optional prayer. You with me? Asr is more important than the optional prayer, especially at a time when the salat is ready to go out, right? Later. He says, if an obligatory prayer is announced by Iqamah and time is short, optional prayer is not correct. If they call the Iqamah for the obligatory prayer, right, and time is short, then you shouldn't pray Sunnah prayers. You should pray. What's more important? Bottom line, what's more important? Sunnah prayer or the obligatory prayer? Obligatory prayer is more important, right? Even though it's benefiting both. You can't pray your Sunnah prayer and your obligatory prayer at the same time. So what's better, more important, is the obligatory prayer. Later. And this is an example that's usually during Ramadan. Likewise, whoever is required to make up fast for Ramadan, you got days to make up after Ramadan. It is not correct for him to fast, optional fast, until he makes up what's required. Yes. Go ahead.
So we can tell you information about before you, while you touch your husband, remember, can you get up? It's the intent, you have to take the intent for us. I need the intention. How would you remember doing it?
You get in the message, you forgot you didn't pray Asr. It's a different situation. It's different than you forgot you didn't pray Asr. Right? But let's just say that didn't happen. If you had to shut it, you're done now. Right? You pray, are you saying you just turn that salat into your obligatory? That you can't do that. Because you started the intention of the niyyahs, right? And in that case, as the ulama explained, the sunnah prayer is a lesser level than the obligatory prayer. When it comes to changing the niyyah, you can't change the niyyah from a lower level to a higher level. So they say you can do what? If you can be praying a higher salat, meaning an obligatory prayer, and the niyyah could come down to a voluntary prayer. So nothing, you come in the masjid, and you didn't know they prayed, you thought they prayed Fajr already. Right? So you do what? You come in the masjid and start praying Fajr. Then you hear brothers talking and say, yeah, we already pray in 5 minutes. At that point, you can do what? Make those 2 rak'ah the sunnah. You can bring them from being obligatory down to the sunnah prayer, because you can't go up. That's a Monday class. That's not today. It's a Monday's class.
I was just reading something the other day. It talked about well, it was a specific companion that he was even, and it was explained as saying that if they were, if they were, on a list of Fajr prayer, like to do prayer before Fajr, is a specific companion. He would come to message praying that even if he saw the Fajr going in,
It said it was a companion, even if you saw them praying Fajr.
If you knew that, and that they was explaining that, you don't fear that you want to miss the Fajr prayer, you still read.
It says here, if an obligatory, I'm gonna read this first, then I'll ask a question. It says, if an obligatory prayer is announced by Iqama, and time is short, optional prayer is not correct. Time is short, right? Meaning, you're gonna miss the time for obligatory prayer, right? Secondly, a companion did that, right? So, a companion did that? A companion did that. Is the action of a companion a proof? If a companion does an action, is that a proof in Islam? We ain't doing that today. That's the question, though. Like, homework. Check it out. If a companion, fi'l sahaba, hujjah or not, proof or not.
Not even that. I don't think so. Today, you said the time was short. In the circumstances that, in the time of, like, in the time of the day, Fajr's about home. It wasn't as fast as it is today.
The time of Fajr is the same. You said the time of Fajr.
Not the time, I mean, like the Salat. Actually, Salat. They prayed longer. That's what I'm saying. The Rak'ah.
Like, even if you missed it, right? Allah, even if you missed it, right? The time for Fajr is still in. Oh, you talking about missing the Jama'ah?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think.
Allah, the time is going to go out. You praying sunnahs in the time, for example, right? In the time for Asr, you're ready to go out. You ain't pray Asr.
Oh, you're talking about
that's my mistake.
Okay, then.
Or you praying sunnahs for Fajr, right? And the time for Fajr, you're ready to go out. At that point, what's more important?
Okay.
The obligatory prayer is more important at that point. You know what I'm saying? You might wake up late in the house. You don't even make it to the masjid at all. Like, you still got time to pray Fajr, right? But if the time for Fajr get ready to go out, you didn't pray your sunnahs yet, then what should take precedence at that point? Praying the obligatory, praying the Fajr at that point. Nah, my bad. Like, that's if one thing is recommended, one thing is sunnah. He says, if both benefits are obligatory, then the one that is more of an obligation and confirmed takes precedence. Two things are obligatory, but one is more obligatory than the other. One is more obligatory than the other. He says, G. As such, an obligation, which is one of the foundations of the Sharia, takes precedence over the obligation of carrying out a vow. Right? The obligation that is originally obligated by the Sharia is more obligatory than the obligation that's on a person because they made a vow to do something. Clear? For example, as Muslims, we are commanded to pray Salat al-Isha every day. No days off for Salat al-Isha. Right? Whereas Muslims, we're commanded to fast Ramadan every year. As long as we meet the conditions, we have to fast Ramadan every year. No, it's not optional. Right? A person, if we don't know, A person says, if Allah blesses me to marry a sister, I'm going to fast for a month straight. I'm going to fast for a month straight if Allah blesses me to marry that brother, she says. He says, if Allah blesses me to marry a sister, I swear by Allah, they swear by Allah, they're going to do something. They swear by Allah, they're going to fast for a month straight. Once they do that, and Allah bless them to marry that person or get that job or whatever they wanted to do, Allah get me out this jam, right? And they make their oath, they make their vow, and Allah gives it to them. Now, what they said they were going to do becomes obligatory. It wasn't obligatory from the Sharia originally, though, because it's only 1 month that's obligatory to fast for Ramadan. So now, the brother or the sister has 2 months on their neck that they have to fast, and they're both obligations. One is an obligation because Islam made it an obligation, and the other is an obligation because the person made the obligation on themselves by saying that, and then they got it, so now they got to fulfill it. Clear? Which obligation is more obligatory? Ramadan. Clear? That's why I say if 2 obligations come, it's benefiting both of them because they both worship. Both worship, but one is more obligatory than the other. Clear?
If you have another example of 2 obligations, one the lesser.
You said? Yeah, man, you got some serious stuff in there. I don't know if I'm gonna read all this.
Because the vow is not like yeah, vow is just like, people don't make vows.
Man, you crazy. People don't know they're making vows. People making vows. People say, well, life for anything. Now people say, well, life for anything. Fuck it up, man. If I get blood, man, fuck me, I'm just believe me. And then it happened, and really it's on them to do whatever they say they want to do. Whether they do it or not, that's on them. The fact that you swear by Allah that if Allah do something for you, that you're going to do this from worship, or that becomes obligatory on you now. You made that obligatory on yourself. Whether the person fulfills it or not, that's on them. You with me? But there's some other examples in here. It says, for example, we spoke about this. It says, the right of Allah the Most High is an obligation which takes precedence over obedience to whoever it is obligatory to obey other than Allah, such as a parent, or the husband, or the leader, right? The obligation to Allah takes precedence over the obligation to whoever else it is obligatory to obey. It's obligatory to obey the parents. But if a Muslim woman and her parents command her not to pray, or command her not to cover her properly, or a man, somebody commands you not to pray properly, then we don't put that person above the command of Allah. Right? Even though it's obligatory to what? Obey your parents. Right? It's obligatory to listen to your parents and follow the direction of your parents. For a woman, it's obligatory to follow the direction of her husband. You're not getting into the details, sister. Well, you don't really, all of that is subjective. The general rule is that the man is in control of the house, the family. That's the general rule. Well, all men, that's dependent on the situation. We're not going to flip it and make it that the woman is in control. The woman is in control of the house. That's not the case, right? So the obligation is that the man is the head of the household and he's directing. So the obligation is for her to follow. But what if he's doing something haram? She's not supposed to follow him in that. And that's no excuse. Well, he told me to do it. No. His word, no matter how much you adore him, his word is not above the Quran and the Sunnah. Never. Even though in that case, the obligation to follow or obey is to the husband. But not when the husband goes against what Allah and his messenger said. Clear? Or the parents, the same way. Later. Wallet. Later. That was the second category there. Both of them are obligatory. Okay.
Before I ask you this, I know not the same as before I ask the question.
Ask the questions.
The question is, say like maybe 1-2 months, save enough money.
That's coming.
Oh,
I think it's coming. Like the third category, if both benefits are recommended, then the better of the two takes precedence. Both of them are recommended. It's a benefit in both of them. Neither one of them is wajib. Neither one of them is obligatory. Both are recommended. The one that is better takes place. This is the third one. The first one was obligatory, one was recommended. The second category, both are recommended. And the third category, both are recommended. Later. Both obligatory. Bless you. My bad. The first category, one thing was obligatory and one was recommended. The second category, both benefits are from the obligatory section. And the third category is both benefits are recommended. It says the better of the two things are recommended should be done. As such, the regular sunnah prayers take precedence over other optional prayers. The regular sunnah prayers, the rawatib, the sunnah prayers that are connected to the salawat, the 5 prayers, they take precedence over the other sunnah prayers. Like what other sunnah prayers are there? Enter the masjid or salat al-duha, 2 rak'ah salat al-duha, 3 rak'ah salat al-duha, right? Qiyam al-layl, right? There's a lot of other sunnah prayers, right? Which ones are better? The prayers that are connected to a salat, the 5 prayers, 2 before Fajr, connected to the Dhuhr, those connected throughout the day are better. He said, acts of worship that contain exceeding benefit take precedence over those whose benefit is inferior. Anybody know what that means? Acts of worship that take precedence, acts of worship that contain exceeding benefit take precedence over those whose benefit is inferior.
So exceeding benefit, like the 2, as when they say this about the Lord, they say before I die, and then 4 more after. The safe from fire, like protected from fire. So the fire is haram. That's like something like that. And then you see the benefit.
To me, it says, العبادات ما فيه النفع المتعدي على ما نفعه قاصر. The act of worship, that the benefit of the act of worship.
I got one. Yeah, go for the option, go to back in the demon. Go pray both of them. Go to back first instead of going to the demon.
Nah.
You did?
Like you used to do regular sadaqah or sadaqah jariyah.
Nah. The act of worship, right, containing exceeding benefit. Exceeding benefit means when I do the act of worship, I'm not the only one that benefits from it. Other people won't benefit from it. And then it's worship that I can do that I'm only going to benefit from. And they use, a lot of them use, for example, that talib al-ilm, seeking knowledge. That the talib al-ilm, many people want to benefit from that person, as opposed to you standing up and praying 2 rak'ahs that's only going to benefit you. Clear? Me praying alone in my house, a person praying, that benefit is awesome. It's restricted to me benefit. Me going out to seek knowledge of the deen, right, that's going to benefit more than me. It's going to benefit me and whoever I'm able to benefit with that knowledge, right? So which one is better? The one that exceeds, it goes beyond just me. The benefit goes past just me, right? That type of worship is better than the worship that is restricted to me. And that's why many of the scholars say, Afdal Nafila is talib, the best worship is seeking knowledge, right? Why? Because the benefit of seeking knowledge is going to go beyond just me. Or not any person, individual, is going to go beyond the individual. You're going to benefit yourself, and you're going to benefit others. The third, he said it was 4, right? On page 30, now it says, what makes, basically, it says a preferred matter is examined for what makes it better than others. What makes something better than the other thing, right? It's evident by any given cause connected to a preferred action. The example might make it a little more clear. It says some of the causes of preference, asbab al-tafdeel, asbab Tough deal. Right. There you go. That's a tough deal. It says the preferred action is instructed specifically in that location. This is the translation. The preferred action, mashallah, is instructed specifically in that location or time. What makes two things, what makes one better than the other? All right, that's what we're talking about. Two things, right, that have benefit in them. What makes one better than the other? It said that the one that is a little better is that we've been commanded to do that thing specifically at this specific time. We're going to give an example, right? Such as the remembrances and supplications that are called in the prayer and after the prayer, right? Appointed remembrances in their specific times due to specific reasons are better than reciting Quran during these times. What's the best dhikr? Qira'at al-Quran, right? But in the salat, we've been commanded in the salat to say specific dhikr at specific times, which to say that dhikr, that remembrance at that time is better than reading the Quran. Clear? Generally, reading the Quran is the best thing. But what about reading the Quran in ruku' and sujood when you're praying? What about reciting Quran when you go in sujood and sajda to pray? Is that better than making the dhikr that the Prophet is supposed to say in the sajda? No. Even though generally, reciting the Quran will be better, but not in this case. Why? Because it's been specified to say that dua and that dhikr in that place. So the fact that it's been specified to say it in that place shows that it's better. Everybody clear? Like, that's why it says, keep it in mind that the Quran, reciting the Quran itself, is more virtuous than dua, right? But when supplication, when making dua, is given some specifics, say this dua at this particular place, then it becomes better than the recitation of the Quran, even though both of them are benefit. The fact that it's been specified, it's been given a specific time, right? Or you can get a specific place, do this. That means it's better than the other thing that even though they both have benefit. Clear? Is that clear? Huh? Like, here's another way to know something is better than the other. He says that the preferred action, the one that we're saying is better. When they say the preferred action, both actions are good, both of them have benefit, but one is a little better than the other. So the one that's better is referred to, that's the preferred action. The one that is better is the preferred action. It says the preferred action consists of a benefit, right, that is not found in the other one. They both beneficial, but this one got an extra benefit in it that the other one doesn't have. So that makes that one a little better. Clear? Right? It says, I'm sorry. Oh, see, okay, thank you. It says, كَحُصُولِ تَأْلِيفِهِ. For example, let's just say, trying to think. You got two things in front of you, right? Both of them are benefit. But one of them, if you do it, both of them going to benefit everybody in the room. All right? Was that the sisters? Was that the sisters? Or that was outside? Oh, my bad. Say the benefit, both benefits is going to benefit everybody in the room, the brothers and sisters, everybody's going to benefit. But one of the benefits is going to bring all of our hearts closer together, and the other benefit is not. Then which one should we do? Right, because either way we're going to benefit. And on top of that, on top of the benefit we all going to get from it, it's going to bring us closer together as brothers and sisters. Right, so that one is better because it has an extra benefit contained within it. That makes sense? Right? Inshallah. The way he wrote the book, this is the text of the book. The way the book is written, he just mentions it just like that. So that's why it's important when translating. I'm not saying he didn't translate it right, but that's just how it's written. It's how it's written like that. That's how he translated it. It says, such as reconciliation, meaning tabliq al-qulub. It's going to bring us closer together. I can do this and everybody going to benefit from it. For example, I can come in here and leave a whole carton, a whole box of eggs. Everybody come and take a box of eggs. Everybody going to benefit. Or I can come in and I can bring, right, a big dish and all the brothers sit down and eat together and all the sisters sit down and eat together, right? If we just take the eggs and go home, everybody going to benefit, right? And if we all eat together, everybody going to benefit. And on top of that, it's going to bring us closer together as Muslims. So which one is better? You get the idea? Like, he says, النفع المتعدي لا يحصل بالفاضل. Like, he says another way that we know one is better than the other. That's kind of the same thing, honestly. It says that one, the preferred action, the action that's better, would increase the benefit to one's heart more than the matter being preferred over. Like, it's not exactly the same because the one we just spoke about, I'm benefiting other people. But now it's just about me. I got two things in front of me. One thing, both of them beneficial, but one of them is going to affect my heart more than the other one. It's going to affect my heart, not everybody else's. The other one was, it brings everybody together, right? This one is about the individual, the person by themselves. I got two benefits in front of me. I can do this, I'm a benefit, and I can do this, I'm a benefit, and this one is going to soften my heart. And which one should I do? The one that's going to soften my heart. Clear? Like he said, this is why Ibn Ahmed Allah said to someone who asked him about some actions. Ibn Ahmed said when they asked him, it says, can I call Ibn Ahmed? قال انظر بما هو أصلح يقدر. Ibn Ahmed said, somebody asked him about a certain action. He said, see what is better for your heart. Which one is better for your heart? You. I can't really judge that. People out. You got to look at the two actions. Both of them is beneficial. Which one is better for your heart? Do that. Clear? Which means you got to be thinking. It takes, that you're paying attention, that you actually use your brain. Islam allows us to use our brains. We don't have to be robots. We're allowed to think and make decisions. Right? Play it. This is the last one. And this is the probably one you wait for. Play it. If two harms clash, the lesser of the two is carried out. If two harms, it's two things, they both harmful. If it's harmful, it's either what? Either two things that's harm or two things that's what? Huh? Two things that's dislike, or one is haram and one is dislike. What's the problem? You come to a situation, two things, both of them haram. Right? It said the one that is not as haram as the other should be done. Because this is the thing, you can't get away. You have to do one of them. We're not talking about you can avoid both of them. If we can avoid both of them, there's no discussion. We're talking about you come to a situation, you have to choose one, A or B. You have to choose A or B, and both of them haram. Like, which one do you do? He says, meaning the lighter of the two, right? So he says, as if something is disliked and something is forbidden. One thing is haram and one thing is makruh. One thing is haram, right? It's haram. It's punishable by Allah if you do it. Right? It's a sin and it's punishable. And one thing is disliked. If you do something disliked, it's not a sin, even though you shouldn't be doing it. should stay away from it, but it's not sinful, then which thing should you do? As a Muslim, you should do the lesser. Dislike is a lower level of than haram. They're not on the same level, even though they both have prohibitions connected to them. Right? They both have prohibitions connected to them, but the prohibition, or Allah says, or the Prophet says, don't do something, right? And when that thing is considered to be disliked, that prohibition that's disliked is not when the Prophet says, don't do something that is haram. They're not the same. They're on different levels. So if you're stuck to choose between haram and dislike, you should do the thing that's disliked.
When it comes to in that case, if it was like 2 situations that are both haram, would
You get this shit. That's coming, inshallah. But yeah, this is just for the first category, something that's disliked and something that's forbidden. Right? One of them had to be done. The dislike is done in order to stay away from the haram. Right? And that's called, as he says, this is called by committing the lesser of two evils. The lesser of two evils. Right? He says, for example, the lesser of two evils, for example, acquiring money from a doubtful place instead of money which is forbidden. Getting money from somewhere that got some doubt in it, or getting money from somewhere you know is haram. Which one is lesser? It's doubtful. This one you sure is haram, that's haram. You should be doing everything you can to stay away from that. Even if it means you're going to the one, but the other one, you're still shaky about it, but it's not clear. That's a lesser level than going what you know is haram. Like, and of course, y'all, this is assuming you have to do one of the two. If you don't have to do one of the two, then what should you do? You go find another way. If you don't have to do it, you go find another way. We talk about a situation, you stuck between two things. There is no third option. Both of them are haram. One of them is haram, one of them is disliked. Right? There is no third option. You take the lesser, the one that is disliked. Like the next category, that's the first category. The second category is if two things are haram. Two things are haram. MashaAllah. Then the lesser of the two is carried out. Like that's what you're talking about. Such as garnish. Huh? We're gonna do it, then you're glad to ask. Tell you, two things haram, there is no third option. There's no third option. Like what? He says, such as a man wearing silk, it's haram for men to wear silk, right? Takes precedence. It's better for a man to wear silk than a man stealing somebody's clothes to wear. They both haram. A man wearing silk is haram for men to wear silk, and so it's haram to steal from people. Which one is lesser? Why in this case? Huh? Right, you're not harming somebody else. You're not oppressing nobody else by taking their stuff. Right? Because now you're stealing and you're oppressing somebody. It's haram, right? The lesser is you're wearing silk, which is still haram, but at least you're not oppressing. So if you just say, not like that, but number-wise, 2-to-1. You're stealing, I don't want to say it like that. You're stealing and you're oppressing somebody. That's two sins if we just look at it like that. As opposed to wearing silk, which is one sin. Not to say sins are alike, but you're stuck between two things, right? It will be lesser of an evil to wear the silk, right? And only oppress yourself, rather oppress yourself and somebody else. Who might hold that against you? Yom Qiyamah. Allah is Al-Ghafur Rahim. Allah may forgive you for wearing the silk in that case. The person might not forgive you Yom Qiyamah for the sin of Allah. It says, or in the case of extreme hunger, right? You got two cases, two situations in front of you, both of them haram. Meat from a dead animal, right? The dead animal, which is normally lawful when sacrificed. So let's just say it's a dead cow. We can eat beef. Muslims are allowed to eat beef, y'all. I'm not saying eat a lot of red meat. I'm just saying, can the Muslims eat beef? We need beef. Like, or lamb, right? A dead lamb or a dead cow. Can Muslims eat? Meaning dead, it wasn't slaughtered. It was roadkill. A car hit it and it died on the expressway. Can we eat that? Huh? No. Oh, shit. Don't do that. We go by the hustle.
No.
Can we eat carcass,
No.
roadkill? Muslims can't eat roadkill. That's the rule. We're not allowed to eat, right? The lamb fall off the truck and it died. We can't eat that. Even if we grab it, nobody grab it, we grab it, take it home. Muslims not allowed to eat that. That's meitan. Haram to eat, right? Also, at the same time, he says dead sheep. All right, meat that is dead the same way. Both of them fell off the truck. Both of them fell off the truck and died. Neither one of them we can eat. One of them is a lamb and the other one is a pig. Both of them dead. Neither one of them was slaughtered, right? But one of them, if it was slaughtered properly, Islamically we can eat it. And the other one, even if it was slaughtered properly, Islamically we can't eat it. Which one should we eat? The lamb. Right, that's less, even though both of them are roadkill. It's haram to eat both of them in reality. But a person stuck between the two, so they take the lesser of the two, which would be eating the lamb. Alhamdulillah. How was that? Huh? Oh, they ain't answered? Dang. Okay.
So, did you mention anything about engaging two evils? Is it with a sin that has a punishment connected to it? Or a specific time, like, I was thinking of it since I was a busser before. A busser,
Oh,
to make us run drinks.
Yeah.
Like soda and stuff. And one day I got to the bar, and they was like, oh, go run to the bar. And I was like, they said, I didn't want to manage. I'm like, no, I can't do it. But they was cool with it, but I'm saying in the sense of, what if it wasn't? Like, what if they're like, well, you don't run, you got fired. You get fired. Like, would it be, in the sense of we saw before, like, with the Haram was not taking care of the family, but then.
That will fall under the same for that.
No, I'm saying of the Haram was transporting liquor, would that be bigger than the Haram was not taking care of the family? Because there's an actual, liquor that is, like, it's prescribed punishment along with being
Allah. But it's definitely better to find that job to kill it for Allah. I had to think about that. All the time, right now. But Allah, that's a good question, though. But I would put that with the other one, really, the other situation. But would one be greater? Allah. Like, it says, the third category, we're going to stop with this one, is if two disliked things are in front of you. Two things are disliked, but one is a little lighter than the other. Of course, we want to take the one that is not disliked as much, if you would say that, or lighter. I thought you was going towards, even just to say you got two things, there's no option, right? And one of them, they both haram, but one of them is from the major sins. And you should stay away from that one. If you had to do one of the two, you should do the one that is not considered to be from the major sins. It might have a curse connected to it. One of them got a curse. The curse belongs to the person who does this. And the other one doesn't have, it's a sin, no doubt, not to make sins like it's not a big deal. But we talk about a person stuck in between two things. That's these issues. These issues is, we don't have a way out. We got to do one of them. One of them is a major sin and one of them is not a major sin. Which one is lesser? The one that's not a major sin. If you had to do that. It says the strength for even just it says, well, let me see if I don't really understand how this is changing. Well, it says two things are disliked. The lighter of the two is done. As such, wealth, which is forbidden in a slight manner, is lighter than wealth that is forbidden in a great manner.
Oh, you said my first.
So a person makes money, and not that the way they make all of their money is haram, but in that field is some ishkal in that field. There's some haram in there. And let's just use percentages to try to make it clear. In that field, it might have like, 25% haram in it, how you gonna make your money, right? In the other field, it might have like 80% haram in it, right? Of course, which one is better than the, if you had to? All of this is sort of assuming you had to choose one, right? Of course, the one that has the lesser, is better.
Or would it be, like how you said it, could you do like the things you have to do that are haram
The things you have to do,
that are haram to get them? Like for one, you got to do 3, 4, 5 things that's haram. And then one, you might only have to do one.
G, right? In order to get, you mean to make money
Yeah.
in a situation? That's just,
It's like,
this is not, these are not options for you to go do. This is assuming you're in a situation. You're in a situation and there's only two choices. One choice, you gotta do 3 things that's haram to get to the end goal. And one thing you have to do, one is haram. But what if that one thing that's haram is from the major sins of Allah? Allah Ta'ala. Allah. I don't know about that. Allah. That's how I thought I was with you. But if that one thing, right? What if that one thing is shirk? All you gotta do is shirk. Right? You say, well, it's only 1 against 3. No. Right? The other things might be like, wear the silk suit. You know what I'm saying?
anything else besides that?
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, there might be things that are, the sin is a lot less, but it might be more of Allah. We'll stop there. Sorry, sisters. I ignored y'all. Any questions from the sisters? If not, hopefully we'll have the mic poured next week. Hopefully. Inshallah. But we'll stop there until next week. Inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم. That was a good one.